Welcome to Colney Talk Podcast.
Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Welcome to another exciting episode of Colney Talk Podcast, your bite-sized breakdown show. I'm your host Alex. First-time listeners, glad to have you here. And to my returning guests, thank you for sticking with me. As always, I talk a bit about the Arsenal match and pick out my top 3 players who shined and one odd player not good enough I get to call out. It's safe to say we all witnessed a disappointing evening from Arsenal as they stumbled this 2-2 draw against Crystal Palace, effectively giving off the feeling of different thoughts. And yeah, there are so many other elements to consider. This was a performance to me that showcased a team that appeared drained of creativity, the right level of play quality at precisely the wrong moment of the season. Now, we need as much run of games to get us pushing forward for a much more important game in the Champions League. But what happened today? So many questions. Even the lineup, as far as having Sterling start, didn't really make sense to me. But yeah, we can't really get all those answers. I do realize that Crystal Palace had a lot of physicality, so there was a lot of bad vibes. Arsenal did start brightly, taking an early lead in just 3 minutes, and I thought, okay, looking good, boys. I think we can try to make something out of this and just hold out the game. And I'll say it was a good set piece delivery from Odegaard. The early advantage that we had and the momentum that we've created, similar to previous games, felt like it was showing itself. And that early advantage should have settled nerves, if there was any, because that goal did quite everything and should have helped establish the platform for domination. But what followed was a concerning pattern that seemed so unusual. I couldn't make it out. Again, as I've said, look, I'm not talking about having this team play or having this whole scenario of what they suffered in a sense where the game is given. No, but the team is playing at home with a fairly strong lineup, I would say. So it's really weird what they suffered. The opposition, yes, they have the quality, but everything in terms of preparation and how the team would set up has nothing to do with that. So there was this void of concentration, having that gear. It just felt like they weren't up for this game. We struggled to control, proceeding or create meaningful opportunities. Crystal Palace grew into the match with surprising confidence in a way, showing that they were a goal down, showing that they had more energy and purpose than we had. Their pressing was intense. They were coordinated. They were forcing our midfield into uncomfortable positions, disrupting our rhythm. And it's not really about the team playing perfect. We have struggled. We've found answers. We've dealt with games where we were not perfect and we still won the game. But that's in situations like that. That's what this Arsenal team eats for breakfast. I mean, what was disappointing was how we couldn't sustain effective plays and passes, a lot of unforced errors. Even as they tried to isolate Rice and Partey in that midfield, we found other ways to play the game. I mean, Odegaard dropping deep to pick the ball up, combining with Timber. We managed those moments. Yes, we didn't have the good flow rhythm of plays, but those unforced errors hurt us even much more because it felt like we were lacking confidence. No player really wanted the ball except Odegaard and a few others. And that, in a sense, was the overall vibe. What was also concerning was our retreat into a passive approach after we scored. Rather than pushing for a second goal to kill the game, we seemed content to manage a slender lead, allowing Palace to gain much of a foothold. Palace equalizer by Eze wasn't entirely surprising given the flow of play, because there was this sense, as I said, that something was coming or we were not going to come out of this game with a clean sheet. He was left unmarked with no one within 3 yards close to him. And I'm not sure if this was a late reaction or no one to call that out. The goal came after a period of sustained pressure from Palace because they created more dangerous moments, dangerous chances, Yes, they were not really hitting Raya directly, but they were showing their intent more than we did at home. So that gave me a reason for that worry. Our attacking play lacked fluidity. Credit to Palace in terms of how they set up to defend. Sterling failed to beat his man once or even provide meaningful width. Martinelli showing good flashes here and there, but couldn't generate impact, consistent drives where there were good moments where he had to look up and play his game. I know this is not about picking him out, but these are moments of what we suffered. The one bright spot, though, Leandro Trossard. His movements were allowing us to find pockets of space to initiate scoring chances or get others in the box and around the edge of the box. His goal was an individual quality and composure, and it was good that we had this 2-1 lead into halftime. From a broader perspective, we played inconsistently. Not a big deal in my opinion because we were leading. No need to really make a fuss about that. The contrast between our free-flowing football was evident of our struggles. We moved away from the principles that made us such a threat or how we could manage and control games in terms of tempo, transitions, fluid interchanges, and the aggressive high press. But worst of all, there were a number of things that just felt like we were unsure in our decision making. So it killed us even before we even had the ball on our feet. So, just like most of us, I wanted to point to something that I can hang my logic on why that was. Yeah, maybe tired legs, closer games, rightfully so, but it was really weird. We lacked reliable contributions in the final thirds in this match. This was just the first half. So, going in, I was pleased in the hope on how the team would play in the second after they would get some corrections and adjustments. And while this should be done as the necessary reaction to it, that didn't happen. The second half began with Arsenal looking to consolidate rather than build on their lead. A strategy that invited pressure from Palace side, showing no signs of being distracted by their own big FA Cup semifinals against Aston Villa. Our cautious approach allowed Palace to grow in confidence, and they began to create the better chances as the half progressed, similar to what they did in the first half. Our midfield continued to struggle with Palace's energy and press. The connection between defense and attack became increasingly disjointed, and this story just didn't look like it was giving us any bright lights of, hope. We were still leading this time in the game, so again, I felt we were just probably going to absorb, endure, and find our way. And long periods where we simply couldn't retain possessions or build meaningful attacks, we kept breaking play, breaking rhythm, not finding good ways. When we didn't have the ball, our movements was just static and predictable, and it felt like a few players amongst the rest of the team tried to get everyone going, and that didn't happen. Palace emerged with a better intent. They continued to show more chances. Palace's midfield trio dominated the central zones, forcing Odegaard to drop deep and also keeping the back line with the ball. What I would say is that Palace had the intent to apply their physicality on us, especially on Odegaard and a few of their attacking players. I mean, Sterling had no chance. And a few times that Martinelli had possession, it was dislodged quickly. It wasn't as easy. But we have dealt with this in the past. When we play with Everton, the kinds of play that we have, or as a collective, the energy that we brought was enough to bypass this. So naturally, Arsenal kept working the lanes, coming close to producing another goal, even though there were broken plays and rhythm. And if that happened, it would have been, air quotes here, of Arsenal playing, a non-sexy performance of a game, but it was a scrappy win, and in the end, that's what matters, which is true. But no, it wasn't that. We simply couldn't find those answers on the other end, those scrappy, non-sexy, moments, or not enough individual plays, I would say. Then the worst part of the game happened, epitomizing Arsenal's complete off day. Saliba's errant pass under minimal pressure at that was intercepted by Mateta, who chipped the ball over Raya. This was the nail that just closed it out for us in this game. I think this was like a feeling of confirmation of how bad they were throughout this game. This was no isolated error, folks. The way I looked at it, it was a symptom of lacking confidence from the jump. It was a collective dumb play and thinking from Saliba. What adds to that is that their lack of communication in those plays was something. I mean, it was simply poor. Again, as Arsenal were trying to work for it, late flurries, including a disallowed Martinelli goal and Saka's near miss, couldn't disguise Arsenal's creative stagnation in this match. I mean, as much as Palace had the momentum going for them, I believe we did enough to have gotten the win, but this was simply us shooting ourselves in the foot. The performance was largely dull, uninspiring, lacking the energy and fluidity we know this team is capable of producing. While there were individual bright spots, the collective display fell well short of standards that we've come to expect, and they even know that. So, I mean, there's nothing more to add to it because it is what it is. I don't think the team mailed it in, but it almost felt like they just wanted to get this game over with. So yeah, now we're just gonna get over with it. And with that, I'm just gonna move on straight to my top 3 Arsenal performance. First player, Kivior. It's been a while, but he has stacked up consistent plays that has earned him the flowers and credits, and he deserves this because his aerial dominance to our early influence give us that feeling of this was a comfortable win that we would get, or even a win that we are trying to earn right away. Beyond his early goal, Kivior made a bunch of critical clearances, including that goal saving lunge to deny Edin Ketia. That was a close one and worthy of applause as well. His proactive defending saved us a ton. He earned high marks for me from this match. As I said, it wasn't sexy all around, but the performance from him, Kivior that is, yeah, he deserves that big mention. Second player, Declan Rice. Declan Rice's tireless engine and ball-winning prowess keeps us competitive. To me, as I watched the game, he had a decent chance to score, as well as making us stay in a position to gain momentum to score. Every turn that he got the ball, he was looking for more. He was looking to go forward. It felt like Palace was trying to isolate him, connecting with Partey, but he still managed to work with Lewis-Skelly, creating spaces to run in the box, giving Miles room as well whenever the time came, or feeding, the ball to Martinelli to do his thing. But, I think we needed the rest to be just as good. He gave the team a good amount of energy and fight worthy of a shout out. We would have had it. So his contributions was well worth the mention. Third and final player, Trossard. Trossard's finishing was impressive. His tendency to drift inside and from the left created room for run-ins, with Rice and Martinelli forcing Palace's midfield into uncomfortable recoveries. However, we didn't get as much more shots as we would have liked. Yes, they were blocked. We won more of those. In the second half, when our overall performance deteriorated, Trossard continued to work tirelessly, pressing from the front and trying to create opportunities with his movement. While he couldn't sustain the same level of influence as the match progressed, this is now tied legs, I think. Palace gained momentum. His effort never waned, but he was the more prominent standout player, seeing how he had to compensate for the rest of the attacking crew who lacked the kind of spark. And sadly enough, you can pile in Saka as well. Yes, he did come late in the game, which would have given him room to do more. But again, so many reasons. Things didn't happen. He wasn't fed the ball, or circumstances that didn't allow things to work as it should, all combined to the lack of attacking spark from the whole team. So that was it. And big shout out to Trossard for that. Now, I need to address the elephant in the room and the player that I'm calling out. That's Saliba. Saliba's error that led to Palace late equalizer. It was a moment that was so uncharacteristic of this defender who has been consistently excellent, especially calm under pressure. He didn't get pressure. He wasn't pressured. And the mistake itself was straightforward It was costly. It was a bad pass that put Odegaard in trouble and allowed Mateta to intercept and punish us. I expected more, at least some communication. What made this particularly painful was Saliba's indecision and lack of communication. I mean, the psychological impact of such a mistake needs to be flushed out like today. It was bad. It just needs to be flushed out. It was reminiscent of the giveaway score that we had from Madrid. And big emphasis here is on fixing this because we cannot let this happen again. I mean, mistakes happen, but this was really poor. So a lot of, calling out for him, and this all falls squarely on him. Folks, there's nothing much to really say because we've walked away with a point. We know what this turns out in the grand scheme of things for the season. So it is what it is. We just quickly put this disappointment behind us and refocus in the most important game for the season. And so with that, I'll wrap it here. Thank you all for tuning in. Remember, if you enjoy this, like and subscribe. Until next time, take care.